When I was 18 months old, my mother had a schizophrenic break, and it totally destroyed my family. It totally altered my future as a human being in this world, and I don't remember it. So there was a lot of information I had to learn from other people as I grew up to understand what happened to me as a child, as I was 18 months old. And that was a very interesting journey for me, and it was very difficult. It was really difficult, I want to say the most difficult, to understand facts and reality when my mother is mentally insane. She's a schizophrenic. She sees things that aren't there, she hears things that aren't there, and she imagines things that aren't really happening. And as a child growing up, that's all I ever knew from her. And it was like, I don't want to say I didn't understand, because there was a part of me that did understand, because I knew myself, right? I knew what I was doing. I knew what I saw. I knew the facts that were in front of me. I could see what was going on in real life, but then in her head and the way she acted and the things she said, and she was supposed to be a role model, right? I'm supposed to look up to this woman. She was my only caretaker as a child, because I didn't know my father until I was in high school. Like, I only had my mother to look up to, and I couldn't look up to her because she was crazy. She was lying. She was making stuff up. And as a child, like, there was a part of me that didn't understand, but it was that I didn't really understand her, and I didn't understand why she acted that way or why she treated me that way, because I didn't know she was a schizophrenic as a child. I only knew that later when I got old enough to understand, like, what is mental illness, and everybody explained that to me. And it was very difficult for me to, like, differentiate between her fake lies that she told me growing up that I believed because I didn't know any better, and then learning from other people what really happened. Because I love you too, Cujo. Well, come on, get out of there. When I was a child, right, growing up, like 3, 4, 5 years old, when my mother told me something, I believed it. And then when I got older and I heard the other version, I thought, well, one person's lying here, right? One person says this happened, one person says it didn't. And on one hand, I have my mother, who I did not trust. I did not believe her. I knew there was something very, very wrong with her, something very crazy with her. And then on the other hand, you had, like, you know, my father, his side of the family, that I really didn't have any contact with. So I didn't trust them either, because I didn't have, like, a trusting relationship with them. They were, like, new to me. They were like somebody coming out of the blue and telling me, well, yeah, this is your mother, she's lying, blah, blah, blah. But then on the other hand, she's like, oh, well, they did this, they did that, they're crazy, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, I didn't know who to trust. And so I had to rely on myself. I had to rely on what I could see, what the facts that I could prove, the evidence, right? Like, talking about, like, a criminal trial, like, you know, I'm the prosecutor, I'm trying to prove the evidence, or like maybe I'm the jury, right? And everybody else is like the lawyer and the prosecutor, they're trying to prove one side and the other, and I'm just like, show me the evidence and then I'll make my decision. And oh, bless you, Kojo. So it was difficult. And I want to talk about how when I was 15, so my mother, when I was 18 months old, had a schizophrenic break, divorced my dad, blah, blah. The divorce itself didn't happen until I was like 3 years old. It was a long, drawn out divorce, and then they've been fighting this battle like ever since. But when I was 15, my mother gave custody to my dad, because at that point, our relationship had broken down so bad to the point where I was being forced, like court ordered, to go see like a psychiatrist and a family therapist, like in all this. And they convinced my mother to give custody to my dad because she didn't like me either at that point. And it was just so obvious that we had no relationship and that things were like really bad between us, like so bad that we couldn't live in the same house anymore. And her schizophrenia had degenerated severely by that point. Like even the medications, like all they were doing were just sedating her. Like it wasn't a good thing. And so they convinced her to give custody me to my dad when I was 15. Now I didn't meet my dad until I was 15, so it had only been like a few months that I even like knew him at this point. And then my dad had saved all of the records from divorce, from medical records, criminal records, the Child Protective Services records. Boy, that's its own thing. I read all 208 pages of that one. But I started reading, the things that this is an objective third party, right? This is a government party, this is a lawyer, Child Protective Services, like these are all third party. Like somebody wrote this down. This is a fact. This is an outside view. This is not just the he said, she said, who do I believe? Who's lying, right? It's not a lie. It's a fact. And some of the things I read in there really helped me understand my mother better, and not in like a good way. Like it just helped me understand things better, and it helped me prove to myself that yes, my mother was lying. Cause like there were things in there, like she told a judge, she like freaked out. She thought that my father had killed my grandfather and that she had a vision of him lying in a pool of his own blood when he was like perfectly alive in another state. Like he was okay. He didn't die for another like 10 years. And then there was one where she told a judge that my father was a James Bond villain and could read minds. Like this is written down in a court transcript. And at one point she told Child Protective Services that she would rather drive us children off the pier than to ever let us see our father again. Like just straight out told them that she would rather murder us than let us see our biological father, which is just crazy. And I even saw like the most like heartbreaking thing when I read all these documents was when my mother said, well, not when my mother said, when the CPS agent said, we do not recommend the children remain with the mother. And that, when I read that, I looked at my dad and I was like, they left us with her. Why would they write that if they were just gonna leave us with her? Like, what happened that they didn't act on that? They said that we shouldn't remain with her. Why did we get left there? And that, like, as a 15-year-old girl, right, I have a terrible relationship with my mother. It was absolutely awful. And I was I was confused about stuff growing up. I didn't really understand it. I finally get this literally, it was 2 laundry baskets full of paperwork that I went through. It was a lot of information and I don't remember it all. But like having something like that in my life to just totally confirm. It was to confirm that what I saw in my life growing up, that was real. Right? It wasn't what this crazy woman said. It wasn't what she was lying to me about. What I saw was real. And when I was like, yeah, there's something wrong with my mother, I was right about that. Like it was very affirmative, whatever you want to call it. But that getting those laundry baskets full of information was a lot for me, and it was good for me, and it really changed my outlook on my mother in so much that I stopped having doubts about whether she was pure evil or not. because at that point it was confirmed. She is from my point of view, my mother is the pure embodiment of evil. Like Disney villain, evil stepmother. That's how I always viewed my mother growing up. But after getting those laundry baskets of information, that was confirmed to me that that's who she really was. So my mother at 18 months old when I was 18 months old, my mother became the pure embodiment of the evil stepmother from Disney movies. That's who my mother is to me. Well, I'm probably done talking about this for today. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them down below. I will answer every question you guys ask me, and I will be truthful as I can be about it. So feel free, go ahead, ask your wildest questions. If you guys have any comments or have like a similar situation or want to share your experience, leave that down below. Like I said, I'm going to read all these comments. I will reply to every single one of them. And I'm going to like maybe make a video on it. If you guys have any topics you want me to make a video on, or I think any topic you leave down below would be good for a video, I'll make a video on it. So if you guys are interested, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and maybe I'll see you next time.